Good afternoon and welcome to this Infrastructure Services Committee meeting. Notice I'm using my microphone today. Sorry. We have apologies from Councillor Thompson, Weatherall, Butcher and Ackland. I'll move those apologies be accepted, seconded by Councillor Vandervis. I'll put the motion. All those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Confirmation of the agenda as circulated. No need to change it for any matter of urgency. No. Happy to move Councillor Wilson, second Councillor Vandervis, that we confirm the agenda as circulated. I'll put the motion. All those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Number 3, everyone knows the rules there. Number 4, we have got the minutes of the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan Subcommittee meeting, 14th of August 2013. They're attached in the back of item 6. On page 650 to 652. Ginty's happy to move. Thank you, Councillor McTavish. I'll second. Is there any discussion, questions? No, quite happy. Put that motion. All those, and the motion is that the minutes of the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan Subcommittee meeting held at 14th of August 2013 be noted. Any discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 5. Welcome to Ian and Kath. Update on the recycling industry and financial implications. I might have called you up prematurely, Kath, but this is, I imagine you have an influence over this part of the recycling as well. Ian, this was a request by the committee some time ago, and it gives us a bit of a heads up of where things are at. Not as good as we hope, but is there anything you'd like to make comment with regards to your report?
No, just really that we're a bit concerned that the level of revenue received from the recycling has dropped over the last year or so, and we're hoping that I think in November, word is out on the international markets that the China green fence might be being reviewed, so we're holding out to hope for some of those markets to re-eventuate. But in the meantime, the plastic 3 to 7s are still being stockpiled, and we haven't sold any this month, so they're currently up to about 150 tonnes sitting in storage at the moment.
Can I just ask, with regards to, because it mentions in the report about, and I'll take Councillor Stevenson, the alternative markets, is there any glimmer of hope, other potential markets other than China?
They're still looking at some, I think it's Korean and Indian markets for the plastics 3 to 7s. Full Circle had been in discussion with another company, and I haven't heard back on the conclusion of those talks at the moment. They're still in negotiations, and it gets a bit intricate once they start looking at product quality and types of materials that are in that plastics range. So their market, I think, was a bit more specific, so it might need a bit more resorting of materials. So that's what they're working through at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stevenson, Councillor Hudson and Councillor Wilson.
Well, I'm glad that Full Circle are looking at something creative, and yeah, that's really good. The question I had to ask, I might leave it to others because it was a little bit different from plastics. So if you let the others go first, that'd be great.
Okay, Councillor Hudson.
In thinking of the paper, when I raised this matter, I was looking for something that gave us the level of costs, including the collection and sorting, less the revenue that we were receiving, so that the ratepayers actually are aware of what the total cost of the recycling operation is. I'm sure that most of them are going to be happy with it, but I don't think we're communicating that information very well to our ratepayers. appreciate it at some stage if you could just send me an email that actually gives the costs, the sorting costs, less the income that we're receiving, so that we know what the overall cost of the recycling operation is.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
You don't want to make any comment with regards to, traditionally there has been a surplus generated in the solid waste area, which has helped offset general rates, but you don't want to talk about historically that has been the case, or?
Not really,
No.
not at this stage, no.
Okay. Councillor Wilson.
The question I had was about resourcing, really, of your department, which is an exceedingly small number, and it sort of reflects in the next one as well. Is that I understand that it's a fairly high quality sorting that you go through, as compared to, I think, America has caused potentially some of the problem that has been intermingling, which has caused the green fence. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And is part of the issue that we are not, is one of the answers is that we put more resources in, we may get more out, and that we'd have resources to go and find the markets, and maybe even higher quality markets, if we had better resourcing? Was that not, is this because you do it in a commercial sense with other companies that opportunity isn't there?
A lot of it comes down to a quantities game, and the original quantities that were estimated when we embarked on this contract haven't been achieved. So that's why we're sort of working, and part of our waste management minimisation plan was to look at the commercial areas for offering recycling services to get that quantity, to divert that material that's possibly going into landfill at the moment and get that through the plant.
Okay, and then the next issue there is it something that we should focus shared services with other councils in order to get those quantities up? Is there opportunities there? Again, appreciating that you're a relatively small staff that potentially doesn't have the resources at the moment to do that yourselves.
Well, the arrangement's a fixed processing fee for using their facilities. They currently also get material from Clutha District up as well, which they charge them as well. But we haven't had any changes in our processing costs because we haven't met our threshold tonnage that we above a certain threshold. It gets a better processing rate.
Okay.
General Manager just wants to add to that.
Just, we don't have resources working on this particular issue. What we've got is a contract with the contractor. They take ownership of the material once they've picked it up. They're the ones that then find the markets, and they're the ones that have talked to their neighbouring councils. We have encouraged, we've had discussions with neighbouring councils about whether they want to, I suppose, piggyback on the service that we've provided. But it's not a question of resources on our side. It's more, what we try to do is incentivise the contractor, because they're the ones that need to go and find the market, which returns money back to them. And that the rebate that we've built in is where we get the benefits if they're able to sell that. So that's why we'll set the contract up from the start.
Councillor Van der Wissen and Councillor Stevenson.
The plastics 3 to 7. We haven't been in a position, I understand, of having a really big stockpile in the past. Is there a fire issue, or has that been contemplated? I remember when there was first a big stockpiling of tyres at one point. Councillors didn't realise really what a hazard it was once it got going. Have we looked at, or do we have a reasonably contained storage area for plastic?
Well, that's for the contractors dealing with that, and they're aware of that situation, so they're managing that.
Okay. So it has been considered?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Stevenson.
Okay, so with the plastics 3 and 7, are we looking at something local or even in New Zealand to do with them?
Yes, we're trying to get the New Zealand market to step up to it and utilise these products.
Right, and I suppose full circle, the contractor can look at what Kate was talking about, that synergies with other councils, if there's something happening locally or even internationally.
Yes, well, they also provide services in Wellington for sorting, and there's one other centre up in the North Island that they also do. So they look at a group, they're looking at it as a whole group across New Zealand as well.
So other councils and that.
Yeah, and other councils, yeah.
Okay, and I really like the graph that you've got on page 4 of the report. You know, it shows, you know, the value of all the different products, and it quite clearly shows that its aluminium cans get the best return,
Yep.
and steel cans not so great. But the thing is, with this fantastic chart, I would really like to see glass in there as well, because I think it's really important that we see how glass would fit in to this picture, because the return on glass is not nearly as high as the return on aluminium cans, and we could use that chart to educate the public that maybe buying their beer in a can causes less litter and is a better return than buying your beer in glass.
Well, the aluminium cans, we only collect about 124
Yeah.
tonnes of aluminium cans, and obviously just under 3,200 tonnes of glass, so the numbers sort of push which direction, and plus the glass is actually being processed totally in New Zealand as well. So
Yes.
that's
So my question is, could we educate the public about, if we had glass in here as well, in your chart, it could be used as an educational tool for the public so that they can see the picture. And I mean, that is actually part of your strategies to educate the public.
yes. Right.
And so like having glass in this chart as well and using that part of the education process for the public.
Yep.
As well as, I mean, for the public to understand too the amount of litter that glass causes as opposed to tin cans, which causes some but not as much.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Staines.
Just wondering, Range Industries in New Zealand, I don't know whether you're aware of them, have designed in conjunction with Scott Technology a line which currently I think is being commissioned in Bali, which takes the mixed plastics, plasticises them, and then uses effectively a compression moulding to create shipping pellets. That, while that may not be the highest value use, in those 3 to 7 where you really struggle to separate them out to be something that can be recycled as the same material again, may be an option, but clearly not for the city alone, but it's just whether there is an opportunity to look at that. New Zealand does ship a lot of product internationally on pallets. Currently they're all wooden and they have all sorts of issues around their life, but also all of the biological aspects to them. So it may be something that might be worth discussing with the contractor, and whether they're aware of that technology and whether it's something that they might want to do their sums on and talk to Range Industries about.
Associated with Councillor Staines?
Yes.
Okay.
The plastic pellets is a very good point. There's also been other cities that have their seats, you know, the plastic seats that you have available for the public. They're also made out of 3s and 7 plastics, so maybe they could look at if there's a chance to do that.
Okay. Mayor Carl, then Councillor McTavish, then Councillor Zed.
And I noticed that on page 5.5 you say that next year the targeted rate may need to go to $69. Can you just remind me what it is now?
64 this year.
64.
Yeah.
So that's an apparent increase in cost. But do you have any, and that's just within that area of activity, do you have any idea what the extra cost overall would be if all of this recycled material actually were put in the landfill? What the extra cost of the landfill would be?
Yeah, I did that number there, and that it was about $73 per household if you were to take the quantity that wasn't being recycled and put it into your rubbish. It would add 73 to your
So in
waste disposal.
net terms, we're still way ahead.
Yeah.
Because this saves in total, saves quite a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it would be more than that as well, because that doesn't factor in the cost of a new landfill. Yeah. Yeah. 3 questions. In the worst case scenario, in this 150 tonnes of 3 to 7s can't be recycled, or a market can't be found for it, do we have a proposed option? Or the contractor, have they proposed course of action?
Said to the contractors that landfilling it wasn't an option, and I'm waiting for them to scratch their heads a lot. And I think November, they're pretty sure they can stockpile obviously through till November, and then they'll be making a call then.
Okay. My second question, PET, that's number ones, is that right?
Yes.
And HDPE is twos.
Yep.
Are we currently selling twos?
Yes. Yep.
So we're able to sell them even though problems with the Anchor Milk bottles?
Yep. We're still getting the same value that we were 6 months ago.
Okay.
Yep. Plastic ones and twos aren't a problem. There are markets for those.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess the final question, it does seem slightly odd to me that we are reliant on the resourcing of the contractor to find us markets to produce us revenue. Is there a incentive for them to do that if we are getting all of the money over and above the cost of processing it? Or is that something that we need to be looking at in the new contract, which I think is up for renewal in 2017?
Yeah, 2018.
2018.
Well, currently the contract is losing money. Our contract is that we pay a fixed amount, like the $64 that we pay, that covers the processing costs and collection costs. And if there's any money left over after the sale of the materials, after they've taken their processing costs and other costs out of it, if there's nothing left over, then that comes back to us. If there's nothing to come back because it's a negative, we don't have to pay them more money. It's the contractor that bears that cost. So they've got the incentive to find those markets, otherwise they'll go out of business.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Bazette.
Maybe a question for Mr. Angry. Are there any local authorities in New Zealand that turn a profit from their recycling?
Well, Catherine might know the answer to that. I'm not aware. As far as I'm aware, every recycling service has some kind of cost to it. I'm not, but do you know of any?
Yeah, nobody's making profit out of it. As far as the cost of providing the service, it costs about over $300 a tonne.
Just on that though, as just pointed out before, and it's covered in Ian's report. Currently, it costs ratepayers $64 a year. If they landfilled that, on our bag charge, it would cost them $73 a year. So in a sense, the recycling service, although it's still costing us money, is cheaper than landfilling it because we get returns on the recycled material.
I understand that. The point I'm really making is that, if there are no other local authorities that are turning a profit on recycling, then, we're all in the same position. And I don't know, I think that certainly, this paper, it gives us an indication of where we're at with it, but there is no, in my view, there is no magic bullet for improving the sales of recycled waste that is going to is going to supplement our budget to a great extent. So I'm just saying that, we're all in the same position, I think. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No other questions? If not, I'll move the recommendation that the report be noted, and also just to note that Ian will circulate the financial data with regards to the overall budget associated with the recycling service that the city provides. And second by Councillor Danvers. Are you happy with that, Councillor Hudson, that information is just circulated to all committee members?
Yeah, and
Speakers?
I'd just like to think that the glass picture is in there as well to shed to the wider public for the educational purposes.
Sorry, I should have included that as to end to follow that up. Any future report that would include in the graphs, got the glass price and volume stats. Quite happy? Yep. Any further discussion?
Thank you for the report.
If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Moving on to item number 6, proposed waste management and minimisation amendments following public consultation. Not sure where to start here, but this has been quite a long process. Maybe Kath, do you want to give a bit of a thumbnail sketch of where the process has come from to this point, and there may be some questions, and I'll check with Councillor McTavish to see whether she wants to make any comment before I open up for questions with Kath.
So the process itself was a legal requirement. It came under the Waste Minimisation Act, Section 4, which was the roles and responsibilities of territorial authorities. It was really good. I know when I started here in 2007, there was a new position, and it was to implement the resource recovery waste management strategy. It was a brand new team, so we weren't part of that strategy being built. So this was a great opportunity to go back and review that strategy as part of creating this waste management minimisation plan. And with being now the team in role for as long as we have been and working on it in this industry, we were able to really build that into the plan and really own it. It's been a great experience, and it's been great to also pull in stakeholders, focus group and members of the public and have conversations around what this plan should look like. And it's been very positive. It's been a great experience.
Thank you, Kath. Just for the committee's noting, the plan which is included in the agenda, at the back of the plan there's a potential action list, and I just want to foreshadow before we have an in-depth discussion about the list and the merits of what's on the list. All those items will be subject to an annual plan process by the council of the day for the 14-15 annual plan early next year. So I don't believe there's any point in us debating the merits of those of that list, because, as I say, that process will happen at a later date.
That's right.
Councillor McTavish, is there any comments you want to make before I open up for questions? As a member of the working party, Councillor Butcher, the Mayor also attended in the sort of latter stages of the process as well, and Councillor Vandervis was originally going to be part of the hearings panel, but unfortunately he couldn't make it on the day along with the Mayor, who was on council business. But essentially, the working party, Tavish, myself, Butcher and the Mayor worked with staff and came out with the draft, and here we are after the public consultation process. Councillor McTavish.
I guess just a few brief comments. Mr. Chair, I think this report, it's highly appropriate that it come in the context of the previous report, just because I think that one of the things that staff have done really well is identifying all the challenges and the vulnerabilities, I suppose, that our current system has, and seeks quite methodically to identify approaches that can be taken to minimise those vulnerabilities and to build on what is effectively a resource stream in a really positive way. So it does reaffirm the commitment to zero waste, which I think in the context of the previous report, I think sometimes it's tempting to treat recycling streams as a revenue, and sometimes you can lock yourself into that mentality, but I think that the reaffirmment of that commitment to zero waste is important in the context of that report that we've just had. It acknowledges the problem of the multiple providers that are involved in the waste stream here in Dunedin, and it acknowledges the fact that we're going to need to work together and build partnerships if we're to to ensure that we're dealing with waste appropriately. I think also in the context of the previous report, it's important, quite a neat thing that it includes is a reference to proximity, so the importance of trying to find markets for our materials as close as we can to Dunedin, so as to limit the exposure to markets and things that we don't have control over. It places the focus on emphasising work at the top of the waste hierarchy, so around waste minimisation, as opposed to dealing with the end result of poor resource practices, which I think is really, really positive. And I think critically it recognises the exciting community and economic development opportunities that the city can leverage off when we deal with our resource stream in a more responsible way, and maybe not just a responsible way but a more visionary way, because I think staff are fantastic in this space. They constantly find innovative and work with people, interested people, to find innovative ways to leverage off waste in a positive way, and I think that that's what this strategy is all about. It's about empowering communities to do that. So it's been a real privilege to be part of the process. I'd like to acknowledge the work that staff, and in particular Kath, have put in, because boy, I think as Andrew knows, it's been a lot of work and a lot of focus on a small team. So yeah.
Thank you, Councillor McTavish. Mayor Cull, anything you wanted to add before we go to questions?
Yes, I would, and I really just want to follow up on Councillor McTavish's comments. I'm on the advisory board of Love New Zealand, which is the national public recycling organisation set up by the government initially for the Rugby World Cup, but since it's moved on to, it is now in the process of morphing into product stewardship schemes and a host of other activities. And can I just acknowledge that Dunedin is extremely well regarded in the public recycling and waste minimisation area. For instance, the amount to which we've bought into public recycling. And I note that some other cities in the country, one of the cities is actually slipping back, and they're taking out some of the public recycling. We have a very good record in it. We have an extremely low rate of contamination. We're probably among the best in the country. And following on from what Councillor McTavish said, I think a good deal of the credit for that goes to Kath. She's done a sterling job, and she herself is very highly regarded nationally, to the point where at Love New Zealand meetings, the director of Love New Zealand refers to Kath as your Kath to me. So can I just pass on Council's appreciation of the work that you've done. It's been sterling, and it is recognised across the country.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Cull. And we'll go to questions. Councillor Vanders.
My first question relates to your suggestion just now that the actions would be decided and debated by the incoming council. I'm perfectly happy with that, but the recommendation says simply to be adopted. So what I would like, if possible, is for the addition of essentially your words, with actions to be debated and decided by the next incoming council. If we could add that saves a lot of potential grief.
Is it the incoming council was part of an annual plan process? Subtle distinction, but it would be part of the annual plan process, I think. Correct. We're talking new council by default, but
yeah.
I just don't want the current actions to straight out at the new council. I had one question on 6.12. I very much like the way the visions have been laid out, and I'm very keen that the guiding principles, the underlying building blocks of the visions and goals be solid. I'm very glad to see that zero waste is described as a visionary goal. As such, I think it's a good vision to have, recognising that absolute zero waste is probably not achievable, but it's certainly a good vision to have. My one real problem with the guiding principles is the precautionary principle, which reads, Where there is a threat of serious or irreversible damage, lack of full scientific certainty should not be a reason for postponing cost-effective measures to prevent environmental degradation or potential adverse health effects. My first question is, can someone please explain to me what that is? Where there is a threat of serious or irreversible damage, damage to what? What are we talking about here? This is the precautionary principle on page 6.12.
So I just haven't got my document in front of me at the moment, but I'll go to... And the issue, Councillor Venus, you've got is the wording of...
The precautionary principle on 6.12, which potentially says a whole lot of things, but none of it is clear. It is about as clear as mud. It's almost as though there is some kind of agenda here which no one is to be party to except the people that wrote it.
Perhaps we could look it up on Wikipedia.
Look, I'll ask, and it's probably... It's probably the question should be around clarification about what it means rather than...
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so what irreversible damage to what? What are we talking about here with this precautionary principle?
So it would be irreversible damage to either human health or the environment. So one of our overarching responsibilities is under the New Zealand Waste Strategy to protect the environment and humans from harm that's caused by waste. This one itself, I think, is the only principle that came through from the Resource Recovery Waste Management Strategy. So it was one that we decided to keep from that document, and it is really to address harm minimisation from waste.
So what harm are we talking about here?
So we deal with a lot of hazardous waste materials, things that are toxic that could leach into the environment.
So we're not talking sea level rise for this one?
No, we're not talking sea level rise. It could be things like, syringes and recycling. It could be anything that we know, is going to cause harm to people or to the environment that we can do something about.
Okay, what does the phrase lack of full scientific certainty mean? I guess, we're going to want to keep syringes out of recycling bins, even if we don't know that they have come from somebody with a transferable disease. We're still going to want to keep them out because they're going to cause harm to people. Okay, so you're really talking about biohazard issues here.
Yeah.
Could we not actually have that in there? Because as it reads, this precautionary principle is a catch-all for just about anything that anybody with limited scientific basis wants to do.
I think, to be fair, some of this language, and Cass alluded to that particular one that you've highlighted, has existed in the previous plan, but some of the other languages, the language that's used is part of the central government direction when the waste management legislation was passed. I know there was a significant emphasis on the real nasties going into the landfill and avoiding those.
Sure, if that's what we're talking about, I don't have a problem. In fact, we could probably get around it just by inserting the word biohazard before damage, so that anyone else reading it doesn't think it's ozone holes or anything else.
Okay, just hang on.
My understanding of the precautionary principle, and I don't claim to be an expert at all, is that it is a general and respected scientific principle whereby if waiting to be sure of irreversible damage meant that you would be too late to do anything about it, you take precautionary, prudent action so long as the results of that action aren't worse than the possible outcome, the irreversible damage outcome. It's just, and it is a catch-all, which is why we shouldn't put any specifics in there, because it's a generic scientific principle, or action principle.
If this relates specifically to the landfill and it relates to biohazard waste, I don't have a problem with it. If it's going to be a principle that someone can pluck out and use for anything else, then I believe it needs to be worded in a more specific way.
My personal opinion is that this is the waste management and minimisation plan, and the vision, the goals, guiding principles have got to be read in context of this plan rather than thinking about any other wider issue. So I'm unless there's someone wants to move an amendment, I'm quite comfortable with where it is. And
I'm happy to move an amendment that basically adds the word biohazard, unless there's anything else that you want to catch with this other than biohazard.
I could add to the end of that sentence as it relates to waste and diverted material.
Fine. Yep, I think I believe it's just too open the way it is. And that would keep me happy. I don't know about the rest of the committee.
Can I just hear that again, Kath? So
I could add to the end of that sentence as it relates to waste and diverted material.
Yeah.
yep, thank you. So perhaps if you move an amendment along the lines that Kath has basically outlined, that
as it relates to waste and what was it?
As it relates to waste and diverted materials.
Diverted material. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it'd be very good.
So moved by Councillor Vanderbiss, seconded by Councillor Hudson.
And thank you very much, by the way, also for what I think is actually a really, really well worded, otherwise really, really well worded and yeah, very clear document. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
You want us to talk to this now, the amendment?
Oh, okay. I haven't even put the amendment.
I thought, yeah, no, but I thought the amendment's been moved and seconded. Are we now discussing the amendment?
We can do, yes.
Okay. I'm just really concerned. I understand where that concern is. I think the time for raising this was when it first came to infrastructure services before it went to public consultation. And the only reason I'm now concerned is the process by which this amendment has now not been consulted on. But it also should normally come to the infrastructure services, go out for process, go to submission, and if there isn't a submission you can hang your hat on, then there is some doubt as to that it's a process-related matter. I just think that it is really important for councillors sitting around these tables when we put a strategy out to have asked the questions at the appropriate time of the strategies or the plans. And so I've got some misgivings because we could be here all afternoon debating further changes, which I don't know if anyone else has any wordings they now want to change, but I'm probably expressing frustration about the process and some doubt as to its validity.
My view is this is a Part B item. The committee needs to make a recommendation to council. This is the last opportunity to ratify and recommend to council. So I would rather an amendment happen here than at council, in my view. This is the last opportunity, and based on the amendment is really seeking clarification more than anything. It's not changing that guiding principle, but I hear what you're saying from a matter of process, Councillor Wilson, but I feel that this is the last step, opportunity to make any amendments, and if we decided to not have that opportunity now, I think that would be wrong, because I think at council it should be once it gets to council, that would be it, and I'd be disappointed if the mayor accepted an amendment at council, because that work should be done here.
Yeah, no,
this committee's not doing its job.
I appreciate that. I'm just wondering if we're going to be here for another few hours.
I don't. I hope not. So, with regards to the amendment, discussion on or debate on the amendment, Councillor Staines and Councillor Brown.
I actually have a question of Kath. Are we talking only about diverted material? Surely, if we have a waste that comes into our diversion or our landfill that we know has a high chance of having a significant impact on our environment, wouldn't we look to do something about that? So whether it's so in here I'm taking diverted materials, it's the stuff that goes through the recycling reclaim, but equally isn't it just as bad to go and bury it in your landfill when you know that it has a strong potential? So I'm just a little bit narrow that in narrowing it down, we've actually chopped it right down to only what turns up there, and we can still bury what we like in the ground
Yeah.
with a danger to the future generations.
We've identified there is both hazardous waste that we need to divert, that shouldn't go to landfill at all, and there are problematic materials, and there are a lot of those, and there's nothing stopping them from going to landfill, but they do have impacts, and we could do more with them. So where we're looking at incentivising or creating an environment for being able to divert this material, so business opportunities and that sort of thing. The criteria for evaluating that would focus in on problematic and hazardous materials as the first port of call.
Okay, Councillor Staines, happy with that? Councillor Brown.
Mine's a question too of Kath. Given that you said that the precautionary principle was taken out of the previous strategy, is it possible that there's a paragraph before this and a paragraph after this in the previous strategy that may explain this principle?
No, it's a guiding principle like it is now, and amongst, I think it was about 8 guiding principles. There were quite a few, and it has come out in the same context. It was written in the former strategy.
So there's no explanation to explain that in the previous strategy?
No.
Councillor Brown, you're all fine. You're satisfied. Any discussion on the amendment?
Just a query, and that is taking Councillor Staines' point. If the wording were to be broadened to as it relates to waste management and minimisation, I wonder whether that would cover the range of, and it covers everything in this document rather than just 2 parts of it. So that would be my suggested approach to the move, although I'm actually quite supportive of the reference to waste in some way in this principle, as it is mentioned in every other principle. Every other principle is mentioned in relation to zero waste. So I'm supportive of the direction in which Councillor Van der Vis is asking us to move, but I think that as Councillor Staines has highlighted, it would be better if it was broader.
Okay. Councillor Van der Vis, are you comfortable with
I'm more
broader?
comfortable with the staff suggested wording relates to waste and diverted material, so it picks out those.
Can I just ask staff, sorry to put you on the spot, but would the more broader, more including management and minimisation of waste in there, just ensure that it doesn't cut out any potential other waste, as Councillor Staines has alluded to?
Well, I think having the word waste in there doesn't preclude Councillor Staines.
The way this wording is different to what I wrote down that Kath was suggesting, which was as it relates to waste in diverted materials.
And.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. I wrote down and. But,
If we're minimising waste, we're minimising the risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with regards to the amendment, staying as is, as moved by Councillor Van der Vis, seconded by Councillor Hudson, is there any further discussion on the amendment? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Now, Councillor Stevenson, is a question, or before we... It's a question?
Yeah, it's a question. Okay, I'm looking at page 13 or 620 of the document. And this part's really important to me because this is about the design, the innovation, the building of local capacity, which I think is, one of the real beauties of this strategy. And it says here that during the waste assessment process, a demand for services and facilities, so it talks a lot about demand for services and facilities, but it doesn't talk about demand for new end products, which is actually where a lot of innovation comes from. So I was just wondering if it was possible, or if the mover and seconders have been moved?
No, it hasn't. So would you, perhaps we'll get something moved and seconded and have it on the table, and then we can work.
That would be
might be better.
helpful.
Okay, because there's a slight amendment that we need to make to the recommendation on page 6.1. Actually, Lynn puts it up, and all it is picking up on some editorial changes, and the editorial changes relate to the document that's on the agenda, or in the agenda, is a proposed document, so we need to delete proposed anywhere it features in the throughout the document. And on page 6.9, there is some wording in there that also talks about the final plan when adopted, etc., that just needs to come out. It just relates to the process we've been through with regards to consultation. It's all very minor, but if we've got the opportunity that myself as chair can just approve those minor amendments. Okay. Okay. So I will move 1, 2 and 3, seconded by Councillor McTavish.
So can I go back
Discussion.
to my question?
Yes,
Sorry.
absolutely.
I don't think it shouldn't upset anybody, because it is about design and innovation and trying to get more businesses, but I believe the intention of the working party and of the submissions was that local people could, invent new products, new uses, and yet it doesn't really come through strongly in 13. And so I just wondered if it could be, if the mover and seconder,
Sorry, Councillor Stevenson.
Sorry.
Could you just start again if that's okay?
Okay.
Sorry, my apologies.
Okay, well, making new businesses to recycle products and find new uses is actually really important and a big opportunity for Dunedin, for other parts of New Zealand. And I would like to think it was clearer in here. And it says it's very much focused on services or facilities. And I would like to see it focused on a demand for the end products. No? You don't want to have any end products? I'm surprised.
It talks a lot about collaboration and like in the front end of the document, but you're probably looking for some more detail. Can you suggest some wording that then we can
Yeah, it was very simple, was that during the waste assessment process, the demand for end product services or facilities, just broadening it out so it could include it, that's all, unless you don't want to have any innovative businesses.
Show me the exact paragraph you're on page 620.
Well, I've seen it in that,
Okay.
in page 13, second paragraph, okay?
Yep.
During the waste assessment process, the demand for services or facilities, which is good, but I thought that new end products could be part of that, or new product development. Maybe I misunderstand the document.
Once again, it's a reasonably high-level document.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, Mayor Cal.
This is a paragraph saying what happened. And if there wasn't a demand for what you pointed out, then we can't put it in. Mr. Chair, I object to this rewriting of this at this point when we've not had a chance, none of us, to consider some of these. It's completely out of time in terms of...
Okay, I understand that. I have actually raised this at infrastructure and services previously, but that's okay. So the other one, and this was raised at infrastructure and services previously, maybe, and that was simply...
Page number?
Page number 8.
Page number 6, 8?
Which is 615 or 8 if you've got the whole, the original, you know.
Okay.
And we did discuss this at Infrastructure and Services, and it was simply that we had a role in encouraging the contractor to find other markets. And in fact, today, in the earlier report, we had exactly that situation of that, you know, there is a need to find another market. That happens all the time. So that under the review, the DCC will report to the city, which is great, about the waste and diverted material information annually, which is fantastic, but I just thought if it had a new box in there, and also to encourage the contractor in finding other markets if required. It's just
Well,
normal practice.
Yeah, no, and your last comment is a fair comment, because it is normal practice, and that's
Yeah.
what's in the contract document with the current contractor. He or she has the responsibility to either find other markets or find a home for the recyclables that they
And it was
collect.
explained to me that in the process, that it would be incorporated into our strategy, because it is actually our normal business practice.
Okay, can we
That's all.
just have confirmation from Ian and Kath? Somewhere in the document, because we talk about collaboration, we talk about obviously working in partnership, and basically saying we don't want to do this on our own, and we've already proved that in the last, since 2003, when the first curbside recycling service was established, that we work in partnership with the private sector. They take on so much risk with the product, find a home for it, and share the profits and that sort of thing, if there is a profit. But we're already doing that. So I suppose, can you confirm to us that the intent to work in collaboration with
The contractor.
whether it's stakeholders or the private sector or interested parties or whatever, is all through the document? Because we discussed this in great detail with the working party to ensure that we would get a much better outcome if we worked in partnership with them.
Absolutely crucial that we work in partnership and collaboration. So for DCC services, curbside services, it's in contract negotiations. It's a procurement of a contract, and like we did with our last contract, and it is the contractor's role to find the markets, but we said we really wanted to get that glass separation and that local market for glass. So we did do that during that contract negotiation.
So we do that.
We do that, yeah.
Councillor Stevenson, can I take you to page 612 or number 5 on the document? Under goals, you've got the vision and goals, and under goals, goal 1, build community capability and encourage proactive engagement. And the explanation under that, promote positive community and economic development outcomes that create jobs, reduce reliance on external markets and services, empower and connect local groups and organisations which build community cohesion. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah.
It may not have all the detail,
And I
who
do-
we're going to work with, but the intent
That's
is
fine.
there.
Maybe it is just the editorial thing, that it appears right at the front there, but doesn't appear in the body, which surprised me, but maybe that's just the editorial thing.
Certainly the intent is there, and it's already happening, and it will continue to happen.
Yes.
Any further? Oh, sorry. Councillor McCabe.
Well,
I can just apologise for being a bit slow picking up on the intent of that. I'm quite happy with it now.
Okay, yeah, so thank you.
Go on.
Okay. Councillor McCabe.
I just wanted to refer Councillor Stevenson to page 632 or page 25 of the document, which does go into some detail about the diverted material processes that we have in place and some of the issues with those. There is more detail in the waste assessment. This is all part of a summary of the waste assessment, which Kath has got. It's an incredibly detailed document. It's like 80 pages or something, Kath?
117.
100, there we go. So all of that detail is in there. And I think the other relevant page is that page 620, which talks about design innovation and building local capacity in local markets. So I'm quite comfortable that the issues that Councillor Stevenson
Yes, so again, can I just ask, in that page 20, so that does mean, say hypothetically, a local business wanted to make new products out of number 7 plastics, that would be something that we would encourage and facilitate. That's because that's the important part to me.
Yeah.
And so that would be under 13 as it's read. It's not just about collection facilities.
That's right. And Kath is currently working through this potential action list, which came up as part of the submissions process, includes things that would facilitate or foster that innovation. So that will all be subject to further discussion as part of the annual plan process.
It's just as I read it, it just lacks that clarity, and I think it's important.
Any further discussion on 1, 2 and 3 that's been moved and seconded up on the screen? If not, I'll put the motion, the 3 of them all at once. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Just on behalf of the committee team, thank you very much, particularly to you, Kath, and I know it's been mentioned by the Mayor and others, but it has been a long process, and it's, I imagine, absorbed your time to a significant extent, and you have still carried out your other duties. So we've certainly appreciated your commitment, and thank you very, very much. Moving on to the last item, which is notification of agenda items for consideration by the Chair. We did have quite an in-depth discussion about this particular item yesterday. So just can everyone tread with caution and not repeat what we went through yesterday. But more than happy if there's something that needs to be followed up and between now and the 12th of October. Deal with it. Sorry. Councillor Stevenson.
I'd just like to thank the committee's work for infrastructure and services. I mean, I do find that some things don't get finished within the end of the training, but I would say within infrastructure services, everything is achieved within the 3 years. So well done.
Thank you. If there's nothing under 7, can I just comment, just generally just want to acknowledge everyone on the committee for their contribution. You know, you've been a very supportive committee. I should also acknowledge Councillor Ackland and Collins, former deputy chairs, who aren't standing again, and to everyone who is standing for re-election. Good luck, and yeah, all the best. So thank you, and thank you to the staff. Tony, much appreciated.
It's always been a pleasure.